June 18th, 2019, I was speaking at a move in Cedarville, Ohio, and I'm gonna be transparent with you. This speaking thing is terrifying, okay? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 93, okay? To the point that all day long before I speak, dude, I'm like on the verge of puking, peeing my pants, both just for funsies, all day long. And backstage, like before I come out to speak, dude, they know this. They've seen me all summer. I pace, I pray, I pee a lot. I'm a nervous fountain. I probably went pee like 7 times in the last 2 hours coming out here, right? Which is the number of the Lord. I'm just saying. And one of the things I do, because I'm so nervous and I don't want any distractions, is usually backstage before I come out. Did it today about 6:30. I'll take my phone, put it in airplane mode, because I just don't want to be bothered by anything. And on that night 2 years ago, I took my phone, I put it in airplane mode. Right before that, I texted my wife saying, hey, I love you, I'm going dark. She said, hey, I love you, I'm praying, it's gonna go great. Put it in airplane mode, threw it in my backpack, didn't think about it. And then I continued pacing and praying and peeing like a nervous fountain. And then they bring you out and you do the interview and the silly game. And they normally send you back because you need more time to potentially soil yourself. And then you come out and you preach the sermon. And that night it was Elijah in the Caves. If you're there 2 years ago, man, one of the most needed nights of programming I think CIY's ever done. It was so good. So glad to be a part of it. And I preached and it went well. And I walked off stage and I went to my backpack and I get my phone out to text my wife and say, hey, it went great. And as soon as I took it out of airplane mode, it began exploding. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails. And I remember thinking like, this is not 2003. Why are people leaving voicemails? And so I knew something was up. And so I went to voicemails first because the first one was from my mom. And she was sobbing, Bub, call me. Bub, call me. Next one was my wife, pretty much the same. Call me, call your mom, but she's hysterical. And I jump over to text messages in a family group chat. My sister, my only sister, sent this phrase, I just lost my daddy. And if my math is right, I was on stage in Cedarville, Ohio, literally the moment that my hero, my dad, Gary Tibbit, died. And my dad had been battling cancer for like 4 years, and he was a lifelong smoker. I do not have time to rail on you about smoking and vaping and all of that stuff, but according to one of his doctors, the only thing you should put in your lungs is oxygen. But the first time cancer came, it was on his vocal cords. They caught it early. They did surgery, radiation, and he went back to life like normal for like a year and a half. And a year and a half later, it had come back and it spread, and so they removed a lot of stuff. He was one of these people that had that permanent hole, stoma in his throat, you know what I'm saying? And here's the thing, from that moment forward until he died about a year and a half later, my dad could not talk. He was so raw and swollen that he couldn't fit any of those little devices in his throat that would allow him to speak. And so for the last year and a half of his life, I mean, my dad lipped some stuff, but for the most part, he wrote. I have a box full of journals and notebooks and notepads and steno pads just on top of each other. And it's literally all of my father's conversations for the last year and a half of his life. You fast forward a year and a half and he couldn't breathe again. He went in the hospital. And his shoulder had been hurt really bad. He'd fallen off a tractor. We didn't talk about this, but I'm total redneck, bow hunting, raised in the backwoods of Oklahoma on a farm. And so about a year and a half later, he goes in the hospital. He had fallen off the tractor. And he had thought that he had damaged his rotor cuff. And they go in to do scans to figure out why he can't breathe. And lo and behold, it's cancer and it's everywhere. And he was gonna die, it's terminal. But they told him, if you can get your oxygen levels up, you can leave the hospital. He was doing good. They told him, you could do chemo, you could buy yourself some time. And he wanted to do that only so that he could put some things in order for my mom. He knew he had about 6 months. And so the week before I was speaking at that move in Ohio, I actually drove over 3.5 hours to Oklahoma City from where I live in Northwest Arkansas to go sit with him so my mom could run errands and do laundry and pay bills. And so he slept most of the day because of the medication. But he woke up in the middle for a little bit, and in that little bit, we had what would end up being our last conversation. And we talked about my girls. I have 2 daughters, and he loved his grandbabies. He wanted to know how they were doing. We talked about cows. He needed me to load some because he and mom had to pay bills, and he was on long-term disability and was not getting much money. And we talked about the Lord. My dad was raised in the church, but because of a lot of the reasons we're going to talk about later, he had left the church and defected and spent most of his adult life away from the church. And cancer has a way of sobering you up, you know what I'm saying? And so the last 3 years of his life, he'd been going and worshiping and learning and growing with my mom and my sister and my nieces. But even though we'd had talks, I wanted to hear it from him just one more time. And I was like, Dad, I want to hear, what do you believe? And he wrote, I believe still. I pray every day, mostly thanks. And a little bit after that, he ended up giving me kind of a final challenge. And he mouthed it first. He said, And then he wrote, it's your turn to take care of your mom and your sister. And I told him I would try. Gosh, I pray I won't do this every time. I told him I would try, that I will try to fill your size 14 shoes because he had some big feet. but I know I'll never stack up. And he fell asleep. And 4 days later, while I was on stage talking about Elijah, he died. And I hold on this stage something I normally keep in a Ziploc bag because I'm nervous about getting water on it. But these are my father's final words. The last page here is my mom's handwriting. She wrote some medicine dosages on 6/18/19. But in this notebook are conversations my dad had with family members and loved ones when they came and visited, conversations with my mom, conversations with doctors. And in this notebook, towards the end, is our last conversation. And I hate to start a sermon like this. If you've heard me before, I like to be the funny guy, right? Like let me tell you about how I pooped my pants in a tree stand because I couldn't get down fast enough. And let me tell you about the time I threw a frog through the window of a truck going down the highway and hit a lady in the head and she tried to hunt me down and wanted to kill me. Like, I like to start with humorous stories and like draw you in and then shift to Jesus. But here's the problem. We can't do that tonight because honestly, it would be inappropriate. Because right here, you have no idea, this $2 notebook from Walmart that probably to you weighs ounces, you have no idea how heavy this is to me. And it's that exact same heaviness of heart that we have to have as we get into this tonight. Because here's what you got to understand. This here holds the final words of my father and his final challenge to me, his son. And tonight we're going to dive into these final words. We're literally figuratively walking into the hospital room, the deathbed room of Jesus. Moments after this, he's going to be arrested. He's going to go through trials. He's going to go to the cross. Literally, we're walking in with some of his final words that he prayed to the Father, final words that he shared in prayer with all of his homeboys in the room. Like, we're walking into the room of a dying man tonight. And so we must come in with heaviness of heart, not humor, tenderness of heart. And here's what we're going to find. You read it earlier. That with his dying breath, verses and moments later, he's going to be arrested. And with his dying breath, Jesus prayed for you, believers. And I'm not doing that annoying youth minister thing where we try to make things really relevant, just to make you draw in. I'm not doing that. I'm being legit. As Kat said, legitimately, Jesus on his deathbed, his figurative deathbed, but he prayed for you, believers in this room. And what did he pray? He prayed that you would be one, that you would be united. So let me set the scene. He's in the upper room of this home that they've borrowed or rented, and he's washed his disciples' feet. They've shared the Passover, kind of the first communion as we know it, and he's started doing this high priestly-like prayer, and he's been praying for his disciples, like his physical dudes, his homeboys in the room, like Peter and John and those guys, and he's been praying for them. And then in verse 20, he's going to shift gears, and this is what he says. He says, my prayer is not for them alone, the dudes in the room. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory, this is key, I've given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one, I and them and you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. And then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. Did you hear this, students? With his dying breath, the Son of God prayed for those who would believe in me because of the disciples' message. He's praying for you. Literally, if you were in this room and you're a believer right now, you can likely trace your spiritual ancestry to physical bodies in these verses. Like the dude that brought me to Christ was a youth minister named Ricky High in high school. And whoever brought him to Christ and them to Christ, and he goes, I can literally probably trace my lineage likely to John or Peter. Maybe in here you could trace your lineage to Matthew or Frank, and there is no Frank. You're just really quiet, and I want to make sure you're paying attention, but you get what I'm saying, okay? If you are in this room and you are a believer, you can likely trace your spiritual lineage to this room. He is praying for you, not even jokingly, exaggeratingly, he is literally praying for you. You were on his mind and heart with his dying breath. And what did he pray? that you be one. Pray that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. This is huge. On his deathbed, the Son of God did not pray that you would be holy. He didn't pray you'd be righteous. He didn't pray that you would do all the do-dos and not do all the no-nos. And he did not pray that you would have perfect church attendance or be a great student of the word. He did not pray that you would be the greatest evangelist. And here's why. Because deathbed conversations have a way of focusing you in on what's really important. For those moments that my dad was awake, we did not talk about Oklahoma Sooner football or bow hunting in the fall. We talked about what was most important and on his heart. And if you think for 5 seconds that these are the words of a rambling, dying man, you're wrong. He prayed in that moment for what he deemed as being most important for the success of his mission. So he didn't pray that you would be holy. He didn't pray that you would be righteous. He didn't pray any of those things. What did he pray? That you, believers in this room, you churches, you youth groups, you students who are Jesus friends at school, he prayed that you would be united, that you would be one. My new favorite word, I said it accidentally at the last conference. He prayed that you would have oneity, okay? That you'd be one, that you'd be united. And here's what you got to understand in doing this. This is huge. It's going to carry us all through tonight. In doing this, on his deathbed, he draws you in and he whispers this prayer. Oh, Father, I pray for these believers that they will be one. And in doing this, he is placing before you this challenge, this calling. He's calling you to unity and oneness. And what you've got to understand is this challenge he places before you, it is not a baby elephant challenge you follow. It is a big, angry, mama giant elephant challenge, stomping through the woods, kicking down trees, causing earthquakes, and making people pee their pants. Like, it's a huge, gargantuan, elephant-like challenge. And here's how I know this, because the further you dig into this passage, the more you dig into it. There's all these little chicky nuggets in there that are in this verses, and this elephant just grows every time. And here's the first way it grows. Ready? What is our goal in our oneness? Like, what are we shooting for? I mean, he says it in here. He doesn't use any earthly relationship. He doesn't use a mother and father. He doesn't use a husband and wife, even though that illustration is used in Scripture to describe our relationship with Jesus, right? He doesn't use brothers and sisters. Now, I don't know why. That's an illustration that's used a ton throughout the New Testament. We are called brothers and sisters as believers numerous times throughout the New Testament, but he doesn't. And I think the reason why he doesn't use those two is because moms and dads don't always stick together. They don't always put the unity and the oneness and the relationship first. And some of you in here know the pain of that. And he doesn't use brothers and sisters because I don't know about y'all, but my sister and I chased each other with butter knives screaming profanities in middle school, okay? And I did not know the Lord, so do not judge me. But I don't think that's what he has in mind for our unity and our oneness. So what relationship did he use to say this is your hashtag goals with a Z? What relationship? He says, I pray that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. He uses none other than the heavenly relationship that he has with himself, Father, Son, and Spirit, the Trinity. Okay, now, time out, bad guys. Let me come over here. We got to talk for a little bit, okay? Number one, I is an uneducated redneck, okay? Like, I know I've tried to get this across, but you think I'm bluffing. I'm really not. Like, I don't even really know how to speak English very well, okay? And so I'm about to try to take 26-letter alphabet and a bunch of words and try to dialogue about something that I don't even understand, okay? And so here's what I first want to ask you, all of you little theologians out here, be patient, okay? Because words and tenses are going to fail as we talk about this, and I really need Michael DeFazio to not like two-footed drop kick me off this stage, okay? Here's the second thing I want to say, okay? I do not get it. I don't. It's this principle that's like woven throughout Scripture. It's on the pages of Genesis. It's all throughout the pages of the Old Testament and New Testament, this idea that God is three and yet he's one. And here's the thing, I do not get it. I think anyone in here who says they fully understand it is like wrong with the capital R, like super wrong, okay? And I don't get it. And here's the thing, you gotta understand, that is okay. It's in my opinion, it's actually a good thing, right? Because here's what I mean. If we could understand every one of God's attributes and characteristics, that would mean that potentially we made him up. But the fact that God has characteristics and attributes like the Trinity, that he's three and he's one, that we can't comprehend with our brains, like he's eternal and he has no beginning and no end and he's outside time and space. The fact that he has all of these attributes and characteristics that we can't comprehend with our 48-ounce big gulp brains means that there's no way that we made him up. How could we fabricate something with our human brains that we cannot understand with our human brains? It is impossible. So I don't get it. And if you're in here and you're like, Hey man, Tibbit, I don't get this Jesus, God, Holy Spirit, 3 in 1 kind of thing. Hop on the struggle bus, okay, and join the club. Time in, bad guys. Okay, here we go. The Trinity. This is our goal. This is what we're shooting for. And here's the thing, when Jesus says, I want you to be one like the Father and the Son, and add in the Spirit or one, he's asking us to shoot for the stars. It's like the best possible example. And what is he really saying? Okay, and I'm gonna try to dialogue about this, and it's gonna sound like, what is he talking about? I have no idea. And it will make sense in the end, but let me just say this Christianese stuff here for a second, okay? Thank you. Here's what I think it means, is that the Father would never do anything to hurt his relationship with Jesus or the Spirit. And Jesus would never do anything to hurt his relationship with the Father and the Spirit. And again, tenses and words are going to fail all over, but the Spirit would never do anything to hurt or jeopardize the community and the oneness and the unity that they have together. Like, none of these individuals who are 3 in 1 would ever do anything to hurt this community, to hurt this fellowship, to hurt this friendship, to hurt this kinship. And as I say that, it's like, what in the heck is the crazy bald guy talking about? But here's what we know it as, ready? That they're perfect and they're sinless. They're sinless, right? Jesus is sinless. That's the only way he could be a perfect sacrifice for us, to die for our sins. So we know them as sinless and perfect. And here's what you gotta understand. Sin is not just like some rando cosmic no-no list that God just like one day was like, let's decide all the things I detest. Okay, this one and this one. That's not how it works, okay? Sin for the most part, when you read scripture, sin for the most part is essentially this. It is hurting our relationship with God and or hurting our relationship with other people. You look at the 10 Commandments alone in the Old Testament, just the 10 Commandments. The first 4 have to do with protecting our relationship with God, and the next 6 have to do with protecting our relationship with other people. You follow. Sin at its heart, for the most part, is actions and words and attitudes that hurt our unity and oneness and our community and our fellowship that we have together. And here's the thing, when Jesus says, I want your oneness and unity, believers, as I pray on my deathbed to be like that I have with the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, what he's saying is, I want you to always put your community and relationship first. Don't ever do anything to hurt or damage it as long as it depends on you. Protect it. Shoot for the stars. And so you realize this challenge he is giving us on his deathbed just grew. This elephant just grew 10 times bigger because he's asking us to mimic and imitate the oneness that he has with himself. And here's the problem. The elephant-like challenge that he gives to us from his deathbed as he draws us in with his dying breath gets even bigger when you understand what's at stake. Teetering on top of our oneness and our unity, or lack thereof, is something in this passage. And what you please hear me on this. Like it does honor God when we're one. It does honor God when we're united. But that is not the end goal of our unity and our oneness. It's not like God is like a cosmic recess monitor at the sandbox. Like, guys, don't throw sand. Tibbit, don't eat the sand. Tibbit, stop. Guys, get along. That is not his heart in this. Here's his heart. You ready? The world is watching. He says it in 21. He says it again in 23. He says, may they be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. Teetering on top of our unity and our oneness as believers, as churches, as youth groups, or the lack thereof is this: will the world believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and will they believe in God's love? That's what 23 says. And so you get the idea that like literally the world is peering through the stained glass of your churches and the stained glass of your youth groups and the stained glass of your Jesus relationships at school. And they're watching and they're going, if this Jesus guy is really from God, then we're gonna see it completely change how these Christians treat each other. And if God's love is really real, then we're gonna see these Christians love each other like crazy. This should literally terrify you. I mean, the thought that, think about this, believers, people who have accepted Christ, look me in my bald eyes, okay? There may be students sitting in your row and your pod who have yet to decide on Jesus, that he's real and that he loves them, because they're going, I don't know if I want to be a part of a family that treats each other this way. There may be students that didn't come with you to this week of conference because in the past they've seen you guys treat each other in such a way that they're like, if Jesus were really real and God really loved us, like I think I would see it lived out a little bit differently than this. Like, man, your communities are watching. Your friends at school are watching, and that should terrify us. And so you understand, like, this elephant challenge that Jesus has played. He calls us in. Oh, believer, I pray that you will be one, like the Father and I are one, so much that you will always put your unity and your oneness together first, but to the end goal that, like, man, the non-believers are watching, and you guys are literally going to draw them in with your love. You're going to draw them in with your unity and your oneness. And so this challenge he places before us, this elephant-sized challenge, is gargantuan. And here's the cool thing. He didn't just be like, all right, boys, we're going to run 24 straight up the middle, go get him. And we're like, we don't know 24 straight. And he's like, you got it, right? Like, that's not what he did. Because in this passage, embedded in the middle is the key. And I'm going to nerd out for a little bit. If you're a Greek scholar in here, maybe DeFazio, this is kind of an inclusio, right? The prodigal son, the story of the prodigal son, at the end of it, there's an inclusio there. And what's an inclusio? It's like a sandwich, right? It's like a top bun and a bottom bun, and they're the same. Like, you know, here Jesus says, like, I pray that they'll be one so that the world will believe, and I pray that they'll be one so that the world will believe. And then right in the middle is verse 22. It's the meat or the impossible patty, whatever floats your boat. But it's like, this is the most important thing. Believers, if you are going to have the oneness and unity that Jesus is calling you to have, you've got to dig into the little chicken nugget in verse 22. And what does he say? It's the key. I have given them the glory. That word, I'm going to butcher this, doxa, could also be translated honor. That will help you. I have given them the glory, the honor that you gave me. This is Jesus talking to the Father. I've given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I and them and you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. So you get this idea that the Father has given Jesus some honor, some prestigious position, and that Jesus is in turn giving it to us. He's talking about us when he says that. And that if we will take this honor and we will give it to each other, that we will be so much closer to having the unity and the oneness. And so here's the $1 million question. You ready? What in the duty is this honor? Okay? Here's what I think. There are a lot of ideas here. This is the one I'm locked in on. You ready? It's this. Here's the honor. And again, words are going to fail. Tenses are going to fail. But the Father, he shared life with Jesus. He opened him. Now, they were always this way. But he opened himself up to sharing life, sharing oneness and community and relationship and friendship with Jesus. He opened a seat for Jesus on the bench. And again, they were always this way, but work with me, okay? No two-footed drop kicking. And that's the honor that he gave to Jesus. And so Jesus takes this honor from the Father of just doing life and sharing community and oneness, and he in turn gave it to us. It's the third time I've preached this summer, and it gets me every time. I have goosebumps. Like, if you're not a believer in this room, I came to Christ in 1997 at a CIY conference in Gunnison, Colorado. I'd never heard the gospel. And I'm pleading with you to hear this next phrase. If you've not accepted Christ, we will never understand the depth of God's love when he did this. That he opened a seat for us with the Godhead. Not that we would be God, but that we would get to do life with God. The Holy Spirit living inside of us. And you've got to understand, it's like God was not content to sit up in his throne in heaven and be like, you know what, we'll just roll with these animal sacrifices and have this really distant relationship where they just try to cover up their sins with the blood of these animals, and I'm just kind of like disappointed all the time because they never meet the mark, and we'll just cover up their sins. He was not content to sit on his throne and just let us ride it out in the Old Testament for forever and ever, because he had this plan. He's going, Jesus, I've given you this honor of doing life with me, and I want you to take this honor, and through the cross and the resurrection, we are going to open up the Godhead to them. We are going to invite them not to a religion, but to community with us. We're going to save them from their sins so that their stinky rear ends can sit on the bench with us. We will never understand the craziness of that, the wildness of that, but he did it. He did it. So Jesus receives this honor from the Father of doing community and life and relationship, and he passes it to us. And if we are going to have the oneness and unity that Jesus is praying us to have with his dying words, we have to take the honor that Jesus has given us and we've got to pass it on to each other. And here's the thing. We've got to do it like they did. Not like we want to, like they did. There's about 1 million ways we could drive this bus off the cliff, but we're going to go 2, okay? Here's the first one. When Jesus passes this honor to us, this is huge, he does it despite our differences between us and him. Like, let me be real. I know that we are made in God's image, okay? I know scripture says that, but in every other aspect, we are nothing like them. God is infinite, and he is holy, and he is perfect, and he is all powerful, and he's outside time and space. He is all of those things, and despite the fact that we're made in his image, we are nothing like him. We are fallen and broken and finite and wallowing in our own sin. And it made complete sense for these two to share life with the Holy Spirit because they're the same. They're one. But it made 0 sense for him to do this on his behalf other than love, to open up the seat for us despite how different we are from him. And so if we are going to have the oneness and unity, the oneity that Jesus is praying for us to have, we've got to be willing to open a seat up for people around us, regardless of how different we are. Here's the second way we're going to drive the bus off the cliff. Scripture says in Romans 5:8 that Jesus did this, that he died for us and resurrected while we were still sinners. So the Father passes this to Jesus, and they're the same, they're perfect, they're sinless. And Jesus in turn passes to us. And he didn't do it when we had our poop in a group. He did not do it when we had figured things out. He didn't do it when we had attained any level of holiness or righteousness. He literally opened this seat for us, knowing that the moment that our stinky little rears took this seat, we would begin hurting him and betraying him and stabbing him in the back because we're human and broken and flawed. And he did it anyway. Anyway. Because we're not like him. He's perfect. He would never damage this. But we're flawed and finite, and he opened the seat for us anyway. And here's the thing. If we're going to have the oneness and unity that he's praying for us to have, we have got to be willing to open the seat for people around us, knowing that they, like us, are flawed human beings, and they're going to hurt us. And they're going to betray us. And they're going to stab us in the back, and they're going to sin against us, and gossip and slander, and all of those things. She dated my ex-boyfriend, and all of that. We have got to be willing to open the seat anyway, because here's the thing, you ready? The only reason we are able to take this seat with the Godhead on the bench is because 5-gallon bucketfuls of grace and patience and mercy and forgiveness are heaped upon us every moment of every day so that we can sit here. And we've got to be willing to do the same for each other. These people will hurt us. We got to hold this seat anyway. So here's the thing, the problem. You ready? Seems like a great concept, right? But that's probably not what your youth groups or churches are like. And I know this. I know that this is not what your youth groups and churches are like. Do you know how I know? Because I'm spying on you. I'm just kidding. That's creepy. It's because I'm a youth minister, right? Like, I'm just a youth minister. I literally took my group to CIY in Tennessee last week. I am still like sleep hungover, okay? Like, I am a youth minister, man. And even though my youth group kids are the best kids in all the land, and even though my adults are the best adults in the world, and I will fight you for those titles. Like, I love them to death, but they're imperfect, man. And I know that at times our youth ministry doesn't reflect that. So here's what I know, man. Your youth groups and churches represented in this room, that's not always how it works, where we just love each other all the time despite our differences, and we just forgive all day long. Like, that's not how it works, right? Here's what I know. There are students sitting in this room who've been given the Heisman. And you won't let them sit here because they're too different. Man, they're not as popular as me, Tibbit. They don't wear the right clothes. They don't hang with the right people. They don't drive the right car. They're kind of hard to love. They're EGR, extra grace required. Stick that one in your pocket, youth ministers. They're just hard to love, right? They're weird, or they're different, or they're not like you. And so you give them the Heisman, you and your little posse, your little clique, and they've been trying to crack it. They've been trying just to get you to affirm them and love them and let them take a seat on the bench with you, and you won't let them. Why? They're different. They're not like you. And when we do this, it's an atrocity. Because literally what we're doing is we're making ourselves better than God, bigger than him. Because he was like, man, there's no qualifications to sit here, believer. You can take a seat with the Godhead, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin, the money in your pocket, your sin state, your sin level, if you're popular or not, a jock or not, athletic or not, nerd or not, none of that. It doesn't matter who you are. You can take a seat with the Godhead. And we do that, and then we turn and be like, God, I'm going to do things a little bit different, okay? There are qualifications to sit next to me on the bench and my friends. And here's what I have to say to that. How dare we? How dare I? How dare we? Not let people share the bench, not let a Noah sit down. These are kids from my ministry. Not let a Desiree sit here just because they're different and hard to love. How dare we? And these kids are lonely and they're broken. And maybe like the Nozomi video, man, they're harming themselves because they feel like they don't belong. And we've bullied them and ostracized them and made fun of them and made them to feel less than us. How dare we? And we got to fix this. But here's the other thing I know. The reason why our youth groups and churches don't look like this wonderful honor passing illustration here is because in this room there are canyons of conflict and discord and arguments and disagreements and people that don't get along. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that and made that decision. I can't stand her because of that thing she did in third grade. And I can't stand him because of what he posted online and what she posted online. And he's dating my ex-girlfriend and she took my spot on the cheer team and all of this stuff, right? There are canyons of conflict in here. And here's what's funny, students. The adults think I'm talking to you. Because here's what I know. Because I'm a youth minister. That there's a youth minister in here who can't stand one or more of his volunteers. There's a volunteer in here who can't stand their youth minister. There's a senior minister that came because he has to supervise the youth minister because we all know why. And he doesn't like his youth minister, and there are volunteers in here that don't get along and you can't stand each other. And what do? In front of the kids, we fake it, right? We be passive, right? Oh, yes, Jesus, lovey-dovey. And then when we're all by ourselves and we're with that little posse and clique, what do? We gossip and slander. Can you believe that that's what we did during our free time, like extended rec today? Oh my gosh, so lame. Can you believe that he let so-and-so come? Can you believe that she did this? Can you believe that she said that? And what's funny about this, adults, is the whole time we think that the kids are fooled. And here's what I know. The kids are really good at two things, bad decisions and recognizing a fake. They see right through it every time. Parents in here know I'm right here. And if you think for 2 seconds that these students are fooled by you, you are a fool. And to quote one of my favorite movies, first DVD I bought in college, I think it was a junior's, Remember the Titans. Attitude, reflect, leadership, Captain. Adults, how in the world can we as ministry people expect these students to achieve the oneness and the unity that Jesus is calling them to have when we won't live it ourselves? How can we expect them to change the world, to literally convert non-believers with their love and their unity and their oneness if they haven't seen it expressed by us? We've got work to do. And students, you have work to do too. Because you're the same. Gosh, man, y'all are petty. Like, I love you. I love students. Like, I don't even have time to talk about room assignments for CIY 2 weeks ago. Yeah. You hear that, students? That's the adults laughing. You know why? Because you're a kid-idiot, okay? I'm a kid-idiot. You're a kid-idiot. We're all kid-idiots. The adults are big kid-idiots. But y'all are ridiculous. Like, I cannot room with her. We have nothing in common. I mean, other than that we're female from the same town. We both are going to learn about Jesus. But other than that, there's nothing. I cannot room with her. And if you knew what she did in third grade, if you knew what he did, I can't room with him, and blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. And what's funny is it's so much worse than that. You guys get all bent out of shape and sideways with each other about some of the most silly stuff. Petty stuff that in 10 years you're not even gonna remember why you hate that person. And what are we essentially doing, adults and students? The Father gave Jesus this honor of community and oneness. And through the cross and the resurrection, he took it and he gave it to us. And we take our seat on the bench, and the only reason we're able to sit here again is because of the wave upon wave of grace and mercy and forgiveness that are bestowed upon us every day. And then we turn and we're like, nope, you can't sit here if you wrong me. You can't come back and take your seat if you've let me down. You can't come back and take your seat if you've ever gossiped about me or slandered about me or hurt my feelings or said anything that I didn't agree with, or we don't have the same political affiliation, or I'm fill in the blank. And again, what I have to say to that is like, how dare we? How in the world can we sit on a bench next to the Son of God who's given us the honor of oneness with him through the cross and allowed the Holy Spirit, part of the Godhead, to live inside of us, despite the fact that we wrong him every moment of every day in ways that we aren't even aware of. And then we turn and we're like, hey man, that's great, appreciate it, bro. But listen, for real though, you can't sit here. You wronged me. You hurt me in 5th grade. You hurt me this year. You said this, you said that, you gossiped, you slandered, you're dating my ex, you're doing, fill in the blank. How dare we? How dare I? How dare we? And so what do? We do work. And I don't mean that we do work tomorrow or on the van ride home. I mean that we do work tonight. Like they don't ask us to preach this stuff because we're like, hey, one day this will be really good. Stick it in your spiritual pocket, okay? Like that's not the point. Like we do work tonight, right? Tonight. And what I'm saying is like, man, there's an opportunity tonight for those of you to make an offering of commitment to God. Every person in this room is going to get an opportunity to make an offering of commitment to God. And I don't know about the Bible that you read, but Matthew 5 in my Bible says, hey, if you're going to the altar to offer your gift to God and you realize like your brother or sister, you have something against them, they have something against you, you leave your gift at the altar and you go and you make it right and then you come back. So here's the challenge tonight. Before you offer another offering of praise in song with Rob Jones and the band, before you offer a commitment tonight through these wooden blocks, I'm saying to you, we've got work to do. There are kids in this room who are lonely, and they're in the same pod as you, in the same row as you, and they're hurting and they're broken. You've belittled them, you've made fun of them. It's time for you to lower yourself, humble yourself, and open yourself up to them and seek forgiveness and have unity and oneness with them despite how different you are. And what's funny is you might realize those people like Desiree, those people like Noah, change your life. We got to do work because we've got reconciliation to be done. We've got canyons of conflict in this room. We're at odds with each other. And how dare we offer this gift here in a moment without making it right? How in the world could we sign our name to a block when we know that there's another name on this block that we don't mean it for, right? And I'm talking to the adults too. And I welcome you, man. This is the moment in the sermon. You get up and you interrupt and start walking and making noise. You got a phone call to make to someone back home. You got a text message to send. If there's a person sitting near you, like you get up right now and go find them and get out in the lobby and have a conversation and be like, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't let you take the seat because you hurt me. Please forgive me. Or, hey, I forgive you for what you did. I want to have oneness and unity. Like we have work to do, and it's for the adults too. Before we make an offering of commitment tonight, we got to do work. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. 5 years ago, we bought our farm. And man, the old man that had owned this place is a 40-acre square. He kind of let it go. He got sick, man. Blackberries everywhere. The horses were only eating good grass, and the fence was dilapidated. And so my dad had come over to help me finish the fence in the yard so we could move our dogs from our house in town, and he was helping me fix fence so that we could move my cows from my dad's place to our place. And I can literally take you to the spot in the yard where we were standing. And he's right on the other side. He's tacking fence staples into a post I'd set that week, and I'm doing the same inside the fence. And while we're standing there, I'm telling my dad of this huge laundry list of things that I have to do to this place. Dad, I got to put a cattle guard on the exterior property line. I got to put one on the yard to keep the cows out. And man, I'm going to turn all this 4-wire fence that you have for horses into 5 or 6 strand fence. And now I got to clear all these blackberries. And I'm just quoting this massive list of all these things, right, that I've got to get done to this farm as soon as possible. And my dad goes, son, and you know this moment. It doesn't matter if you're 14 or you're 34. You stop, you listen. Son, you know how to eat an elephant? I'd never heard this. You know how to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And on his deathbed, with some of his dying words, the Son of God who came to show us how to live and to give us that spot on the bench, some of his last words, he prayed that we would be one, like he and the Father are one, that we would shoot for the stars with our unity, because the world is watching and they're waiting to decide whether they believe or not based upon whether they see us love each other or not. And in this prayer, he places before us that massive elephant of a challenge. And we may look at it tonight and we may be like, there's no way we can do this, Jesus. Like, there's no way we can reach your level of unity and oneness. We're not God. Like, we're too different. It's too messy. There's so much conflict and so much. It would just be easier for me to go to another youth group. It'd just be easier for me to go to another church. It'd be easier for me to leave this ministry and go start over somewhere else. There's no way that we could eat this elephant, Jesus. But here's the thing. We could start tonight. We can start chewing now. And so I welcome you to get your forks and dig in and do work.